The hidden power in an insult. There's a moment, maybe you've lived it, when someone says something sharp, something meant to sting. It catches you off guard. You feel that heat in your chest, that instant rush to defend yourself, to fire back. In that second, your entire body screams for reaction. But that's the trap. Because the insult isn't just words, it's bait. It's a test of your composure, your dignity, your control. The person who insulted you may not even realize it consciously, but on a primal level, they're asking one question: can I shake you? How you respond in that instant can elevate you or expose you. Machiavelli would have understood this perfectly. He wasn't just a political theorist, he was a student of human nature, raw, flawed, emotional human nature. He saw how people weaponize words, how pride and ego turn simple exchanges into wars of reputation. He'd argue that insults are rarely about truth. They're about power, the subtle kind that shifts perception, that makes one person seem smaller while another seems unshakable. The insult is never really about what was said, it's about who now controls the frame. So when someone insults you, most people want to fight back to correct the story. But Machiavelli's lesson is darker and far more effective. He'd tell you, don't give the insult oxygen, don't let your emotions write your next move. The moment you react, you've lost. But if you stay still, calm, calculating, you take back control. The real power is not in defending your honor, but in showing the world that it cannot be touched, the one who cannot be rattled, cannot be ruled. 1. Who was Machiavelli, and why his view of power still terrifies people? Niccolò Machiavelli lived in 15th century Florence, a city of politics, betrayals, and constant shifting alliances. He wasn't a king or even particularly wealthy. He was a diplomat, an observer, but his eyes were razor sharp. From the courts of princes to the back rooms of politics, he saw the real nature of power, that most people pretend to be moral, but act from fear, that leaders survive not because they're loved, but because they understand human weakness. When he wrote The Prince, he wasn't crafting a guide to evil. He was describing how the world really worked. Machiavelli believed that humans are predictable when it comes to pride and fear. They crave respect, but they fear humiliation. And nothing triggers those instincts faster than an insult. That's why, in The Prince, he warned rulers to avoid insulting others, because it provokes hatred and revenge. Yet he also hinted that being insulted is an opportunity. It exposes the motives of your enemies and reveals who dares to challenge your authority. To Machiavelli, every insult was a political move, a small act of rebellion or dominance, and it demanded not an emotional reaction, but a strategic calculation. People fear Machiavelli's philosophy because it strips away the comforting illusion that morality alone guides human behavior. His ideas are cold, almost surgical. But beneath that coldness lies power, the kind that allows you to move through conflict unshaken. To understand him is to understand that when someone insults you, they're not just attacking your feelings, they're testing your control of perception. Lose that and you lose everything. 2. Insults as strategic attacks. Why they matter more than you think. Most people underestimate the power of an insult. They think it's just a jab, a fleeting offense. But Machiavelli saw insults as strategic tools, ways to test loyalty, assert dominance, or destabilize an opponent. In his time, political figures would publicly mock or humiliate rivals not because they cared about the insult itself, but because they wanted to force a reaction. A man who cannot control his temper loses authority. A prince who can be baited into rage loses fear. The same dynamic plays out today in offices, friendships, and online spaces. Insults are provocations disguised as conversation. When someone insults you, they're making a move on the psychological chessboard. They're signaling that they feel bold enough to challenge you. If you respond impulsively, you confirm that their words hit the mark. You validate their power. But if you remain composed, their move collapses under its own weight. They appear petty, you appear disciplined. In Machiavelli's world, this is not about being passive. It's about choosing your battlefield. You don't fight where your enemy wants, you fight where you control the terrain. The brilliance of this idea lies in its universality. Whether in politics, business, or personal life, the people who master their reactions become unpredictable, and thus untouchable. The insult ceases to be an attack, it becomes a mirror, reflecting more about the speaker than the target. Machiavelli understood that insult is a weapon of the insecure. Once you grasp that, you see the trap for what it is. You stop defending your pride and start defending your power. 3. Why reacting emotionally is a mistake. It feels almost impossible not to react when someone insults you. The sting comes fast, before logic can intervene. Your face gets hot, your words trip over each other, and suddenly you're in defense mode, explaining, justifying, lashing out. But here's the truth. Machiavelli would whisper, the moment you react, you've already surrendered power. You've accepted the other person's frame, their arena, their tempo. They've dragged you from clarity into chaos, and now they're dictating the rules. That's why reacting emotionally isn't just unwise, it's strategically suicidal. Machiavelli's entire philosophy rests on the idea that emotion clouds judgment. In The Prince, he warns rulers to appear compassionate and open, but to remain internally composed and calculating. Passion, he writes, is for show, not for guidance. When someone insults you, the emotional surge you feel is exactly what they hope for. It exposes what you value most. Anger reveals insecurity. Over-explaining reveals guilt. A smirk, on the other hand, or calm silence, communicates strength beyond words. The one who keeps their composure keeps their crown. Imagine two leaders. One lashes out when criticized, shouting down the room. The other listens, unmoved, and replies only when the silence becomes unbearable. Who would you respect more? The first shows fire but loses control. The second shows discipline, a rare power in a world addicted to reaction. Machiavelli's dark insight is that control isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about using them as information. Anger tells you where your ego lives. Fear tells you where your weakness hides. A master doesn't silence emotion. They study it, then decide when, where, and if to strike. 4. Machiavelli's method: silence, composure, calculation. To Machiavelli, silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. In Florence's political courts, where rumors destroyed careers overnight, silence was a weapon sharper than any sword. When accused or insulted, Machiavellian leaders wouldn't rush to defend themselves. They would wait, observe, let their enemies overplay their hands. Silence unsettles the attacker because it denies them feedback. They can't tell whether they've wounded you or bored you. The result? Their confidence cracks and your image of strength grows. Composure is the external expression of inner calculation. It tells the world that you are not easily provoked, that you are dangerous precisely because you think before acting. Machiavelli believed that appearances mattered more than truth. People judge not what you are, but what you seem to be. When insulted, if you appear calm, confident, and slightly amused, you project control. Even if you're furious inside, the image of composure reshapes the perception of power. Others will think twice before challenging someone who doesn't flinch. Then comes calculation, the heart of Machiavellian strategy. If you choose to respond, the move must be deliberate, not emotional. You never clap back just to feel better. You strike only when the outcome advances your position. And if you strike, it must be decisive. Machiavelli famously said, "Men should be either treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries. For heavy ones they cannot." In other words, don't wound, eliminate. If retaliation won't neutralize the threat completely, your best move is none at all. Either forgive strategically, or destroy completely, nothing in between. 5. Turning an insult into power. Here's the genius of Machiavelli's darkest lesson: an insult handled correctly can actually increase your authority. Most people see insults as attacks, but a Machiavellian mind sees opportunity. When someone insults you publicly, they give you free information about who they are, what they fear, and where they think your weakness lies. They've exposed their intentions. That moment becomes your battlefield intelligence. By staying composed, you turn their attack into data. You learn without losing anything. The next move is reframing. Instead of defending yourself, you shift the meaning of the insult. A sarcastic jab about your ambition? You might reply lightly, "You're right. I do aim high." A comment about your calmness? "I've found panic rarely helps." The tone matters more than the words. You turn their insult into a confirmation of your strength. In Machiavellian terms, you steal the weapon mid-air and strike back without ever appearing to attack. You become untouchable because every arrow aimed at you lands as proof of your poise. But sometimes, the best response is none at all. The Machiavellian silence, the deliberate refusal to engage, can devastate more effectively than any comeback. Because silence is ambiguous, it could mean superiority, disinterest, or hidden strategy. The insulter, left uncertain, begins to doubt themselves. The audience, seeing your calm, assumes you're above the petty drama. The insult, once meant to humiliate you, now amplifies your composure, and that's the paradox Machiavelli understood. When you don't fight for every ounce of respect, people start giving you more of it. 6. Real-life examples. Machiavelli's lesson in action. History is full of people who understood, consciously or not, the Machiavellian art of mastering insult. One of the clearest examples is Abraham Lincoln. During his presidency, Lincoln was constantly mocked, called a fool, a tyrant, and worse. Newspapers published cartoons ridiculing his looks and intelligence. But Lincoln almost never responded. He knew that reacting emotionally would only lower him to his critics' level. Instead, he let silence and results defend him. Over time, his calm under fire became part of his legend. He turned mockery into moral authority simply by refusing to be dragged into petty battles. His restraint wasn't passivity, it was strategy. Fast forward to the world of modern business, and you see the same psychology play out. Think of leaders like Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, both frequently criticized, sometimes insulted outright. Yet their responses are minimal, often delivered with a smile or a quiet shrug. They understand what Machiavelli taught. People who chase every insult show insecurity. Those who stay focused on their mission radiate confidence. By ignoring verbal attacks, they make their detractors look smaller, while they appear unbothered and in control. In the power game, perception is reality, and composure is the most expensive currency. Even in everyday life, you'll find that this principle holds. Consider someone at work who's constantly targeted by sarcasm or gossip. The person who reacts loudly feeds the rumor mill. The one who doesn't react, who lets their consistent performance speak louder than their anger, quietly wins the respect of everyone watching. People notice restraint. They remember composure. They may not say it out loud, but they sense strength in silence. That's the essence of Machiavelli's insight. The insult is temporary, but your reaction can define your reputation for years. 7. Ethical and psychological dimensions. The dark and the light. Machiavelli's approach is often labeled dark for a reason. It's not soft or sentimental. It's brutally pragmatic. He cared about results, not feelings. But to apply his philosophy in modern life, you have to translate that ruthlessness into something sustainable. There's a fine line between being strategic and being cold. If you interpret Machiavelli's advice as crush anyone who disrespects you, you'll destroy trust faster than you gain control. True Machiavellian strength isn't about cruelty. It's about mastery of self. It's about being so centered that no one can emotionally hijack you. Psychologically, this approach requires emotional discipline. You have to be aware of your inner reaction without acting on it. That's not easy. It's a skill built through self-observation. When you feel anger rise, don't suppress it, watch it. When you feel humiliated, name it privately, not publicly. Machiavelli would tell you that emotions are data points. They reveal where your ego is exposed. If you can read that data without letting it control you, you become almost untouchable. In that state, insults stop being emotional triggers and start being opportunities to understand both yourself and your opponent better. Ethically, it's important to remember that power is a double-edged sword. The same composure that protects you can also distance you from others if you overuse it. There's value in compassion. There's strength in forgiveness. The real challenge is balance, knowing when to play the Machiavellian card and when to show humanity. In leadership, relationships, or personal growth, the ultimate goal isn't to dominate people. It's to stay steady within yourself. The Machiavellian lesson isn't cruelty. It's control. And control, when used wisely, breeds respect, not fear. 8. Applying the lesson in everyday life. Imagine you're in a team meeting, presenting your idea, and someone interrupts with a snide remark. The room goes quiet, all eyes turn to you. That's your moment. A reactive mind wants to defend or attack, but a Machiavellian mind knows better. You pause. You smile. Maybe you say, "That's an interesting perspective," and return to your point without breaking pace. The power of that moment isn't just in what you said, it's in what you didn't say. You refuse to fight on their terms. After the meeting, people won't remember the insult. They'll remember how unshaken you were under pressure. In personal relationships, this same principle applies in softer tones. Suppose someone close to you says something hurtful in frustration. You can lash out, or you can stay calm and respond when emotions cool. Machiavelli's wisdom here is simple. Reaction strengthens conflict, but restraint preserves leverage. By staying composed, you avoid deepening the wound and earn the space to communicate later from a position of calm. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means patience. You're saving your words for when they'll have maximum impact, not when they'll be wasted in heat. Even online, in the digital age of insults and comments, the rule holds. Every angry reply you type feeds someone's craving for attention. Every calm response, or no response at all, starves them of it. The modern battlefield of words is more visible than Machiavelli's Florence ever was, but the psychology is unchanged. Don't feed the noise. Don't trade power for pride. In a world where everyone reacts instantly, the person who doesn't is rare, and in Machiavelli's eyes, rarity is power. Conclusion: mastering reaction, protecting power. The moment someone insults you, they hand you a choice, a test. Do you surrender to emotion, or do you hold your center? Do you let their words define you, or do you define the moment? Machiavelli would tell you, every insult is a small war, not of fists or politics, but of perception. The one who wins is not the loudest, but the calmest. The person who reacts first loses the game because they've proven that someone else can control them. Power, in its purest form, isn't about domination. It's about control over yourself. Machiavelli's darkest lesson isn't about cruelty or vengeance. It's about mastery. It's about learning to turn insult into energy, criticism into clarity, and humiliation into information. The world is full of people who speak before they think, who let emotion drive their every move. The few who learn restraint, who can absorb heat without exploding, are the ones who rise. They make better decisions, form longer-lasting alliances, and command respect without demanding it. They understand what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that it's better to be feared than loved, not because fear is stronger, but because respect born from control lasts longer than affection born from impulse. So the next time someone insults you, in public, online, or to your face, pause. Don't react. Don't defend. Don't explain. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Let your calmness become their confusion. Then, when the noise fades, move forward, smarter, sharper, more dangerous in your composure. Remember, Machiavelli's wisdom isn't about playing dirty, it's about playing differently. He understood that insult is just another battlefield, and power belongs to the one who doesn't need to fight for it. When people insult you, don't seek revenge, seek control, because in the end, that's the real game. And those who master it, rule quietly.